Hey, it's Greg Howard back with some more stringing tips. This one for Stratocaster, or 6 on the line headstock, Tele Strat, Jaguar, Jazzmaster, Fano, whatever. Just going to do a string change to show you how I do wrap the tuning pegs. Nothing earth-shattering, but something that works for me and maintains stability on a non-locking tremolo, non-locking tuners. So Dadiri NYXL 10s is what I'm using these days. So let's get to it. So I usually just take off 3 strings at a time, just to make it easier for me to keep up with where I'm at. Quite a few comments on the last video about not cleaning the fretboard. I don't clean the fretboard on this. It's my personal guitar. It's the way I like it. I like it to look old. Doesn't hurt anything. So I'm just gonna leave it that way. And feel free to comment about cleaning your fretboard or not. So these are 10s. I use 10s on most tremolo guitars and Fender guitars. Personal preference for me. I like 10s even on Les Pauls, although I do have 9s on a few guitars. And you know, I usually use just whatever the artist wants. We use whatever kind of strings they use or are endorsed by. A lot of guys pay for them. A lot of guys get them free. That's just the way it is. Okay, so what I try to do is I try to line up the cloisons, which basically you put the string down into. Some other people will wrap them kind of like I do my 3 in a line, where they won't go down into the tuner. They'll use just a straight through and then wrap one up, one down. I don't do that. I like just a couple of wraps, and I like to put the string down in. So what I normally do is go down about 2.5 on the D string. I might go all the way to the last post and snip it, and then we put it down into the cloison. And then I do, just to save time, I wrap it as many times as I can get it before I need to use a string winder. This one's just one. Forgot. Big Ben's nut sauce. Like to use this both in the nut and on the saddle. Saves on string breakage. You can use chapstick. There's a bunch of different things to use. You can use Vaseline and put some pencil shavings in it. Use that for years. Kind of messy. You know, these guys just do it for you. So not an endorsement, just something I use. So again, go down about 2, maybe 2.5 on this one. I'm going to go down to the B string, almost to the B string. This is for the A. Again, wrapping it once to kind of get it on there. Oh, got my Big Ben's nut sauce again. Too much talking, not enough stringing. Easier to put this on before you start tightening the string. So, nut sauce, bridge sauce, whatever you want to call it. This just helps the string from getting caught up in the nut or rubbing on the bridge. For the low E, go just about 2.5. So what you end up with, at least on the wound strings, is you end up with about 2 windings, 3 windings on the D, which gives you about an even string pull across the nut. You can go to about 1 winding on this one. On some guitars, and depending on the guitarist, it might pop out of the nut. So for my personal playing, I usually do two, 2, 3, and then, so let's do the playing strings. And I just loosen them enough that I can get in here, cut 3 at a time, I hold on to them so they don't pop out, hit me in the eye, and then I just used to keep them all together, wind them back up. Just a way for me to keep up with stuff. A lot of times on the road, you know, you're in the middle of stringing something, you get pulled away, you come back and you're like, where was I? You know, it happens. String multiple instruments, you know, up to 5, 10 guitars a day. Just depending on the artist, how many guitars he has, how many he plays. With Brad Whitford from Aerosmith, I change his main one every gig, and the other ones, you know, when they need it, you know, when it's dirty, when it feels gross, you know, it gets changed. There's, you know, for me, there's no reason to do it just to waste strings or just to change strings. You know, even if you get them for free, there's no reason wasting stuff. So, a little lube here. In the nut. All right, so for the G string, I like to get quite a few windings, but I'm going to cut it about 1.5 inches, 2 inches from the end of the headstock. Down in the cloisonne. Here's one I can really get a couple of wraps on. Saves you some time. Just got to be careful about it. Make sure you're wrapping all the way down. Always down. So you see that's a pretty even string pull compared to the D. And for the B and the E, I wrap the whole string. Actually the B, I think on these, I usually cut off about 1 inch, 1.5 inches. Again, wrapping down. Don't use a string tree. That's a good place to kind of cause some more friction. Also, the pull is going to be way more downforce on your nut. All right, so for the E string, going to wrap the whole string. So, you can see across here, there's enough down pressure to keep it in the nut, but not enough, it's not going to be severe like if you put it in the string tree to cause enough friction when using the tremolo. So, pretty much try to get it as even as possible across there. And then what I usually do is I go in and stretch 3 strings at a time using the old string stretcher. So on wounds, they recommend 2 or 3 times back and forth. I do this with the strings partially slack. That way you're not just really wrenching on it. And I'll go ahead and tune up the pitch. Not tuning it super accurate, just trying to get it to the pitch that it should be at. So then I'll do the plain strings, so slack them off a little bit. Get the stretcher in here. Give it about 3 times. You can do the same thing with just your hands, like this. But this really, the stretcher really helps. String stretcher really helps out. And the string digging in your fingers. So up to pitch. By the way, I'm not on the road right now, so we're shooting this in my kitchen. Lovely. Just remodeled it myself, built all the cabinets. Actually started about a year ago this week. Took me 3 or 4 months. All right, so once you get the plain strings tuned up, it's probably going to cause the wounds to go flat. So go ahead and tune these up to a relative pitch, and then just random noodling. Obviously going out of tune. And then I usually go in, usually just pull on the string up a little bit. That's definitely gonna flatten the note out, so then you can go in and tune back up to pitch. And on the gig, I'll do this. I'll play the guitar. I might sit down and play the guitar just acoustically for 10 minutes or so. I might use it for line checking for the band. A lot of times, these bigger bands, they don't come in and do sound check. So we do a little roadie jam, do a couple of songs for the sound guys, and make sure our monitors are right. Make sure the sound's right for the gig. And that's a good way to stretch out the strings as well.